Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Zanzal, coach, ordained minister, grandma, mama of four, and a queer woman married to my lovely, gorgeous wife after I came out later in life. This is Coming Out and Beyond LGBTQIA plus stories, a podcast for everyone exploring identity, queerness, and what it means to live more truthfully, no matter our age or stage. We share stories of coming out, starting over, resiliency, how to navigate relationships, grief, joy, and building lives that actually fit us as human beings. No labels required, just curiosity, courage, and a little faith in this journey. Welcome. Let's dive in.
First romantic relationships with a woman are intense, and for later in lifers, these relationships change everything. Being in a catalyst relationship can bring an enormous amount of joy, but they can also be fraught with difficulty, and if the relationship ends, it can leave you feeling lost. You don't have to go through this alone. The Catalyst Relationship, Women Loving Women, Navigating Love's First Chapter and Beyond is a course to support women who have had a catalyst relationship. The course includes video lessons, exercises, and an online community where you can connect with others who have had a similar experience. Learn more about the course and sign up at annemariezanzal.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Coming Out and Beyond LGBTQIA plus stories. Today's guest is Sarah Locke, author, advocate, and founder of Locke's Promise. When I read Sarah's book, I knew there was more to the story. It touches on her journey of coming out later in life, but what stood out even more was her belief that your story is your strength and that you have to tell it well and tell it often. So I invited her to do just that. Sarah's lived experience with multiple sclerosis, identity, and advocacy is powerful, raw, and unapologetically honest. She doesn't just share her truth, she builds community with it. Here she is in her own words. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Anne-Marie. It's fabulous to be here. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciated your book, and I'm very glad to have you on the show. So let's get into our questions right away. And for
Sure.
regular listeners of this show, we're going to do this a little differently this time because Sarah's book is part of her coming out story. And so, but it's also intertwined. I wanted to do this a little bit differently today. So we're trying something new. So Sarah, in one line, what does living out loud mean to you now versus when you started writing?
Being true to oneself, no
Mhm.
matter what anybody else's thoughts or opinions are. Be you.
And there's a cost to that sometimes.
It's a big cost.
Yeah.
I think that there's just so much that someone who's coming out has to agree to ahead of time with themselves. That it's okay to be alone for a minute. It's okay to lose people that you thought were close to you, because if they don't accept you for who you really are, they weren't really close to you.
Mhm.
But it's definitely a coming to Jesus with yourself of this isn't going to be a fun ride. And sometimes it is, and you have an amazing support system, and sometimes it's torn. I got support where I didn't think I was going to get support. And I
Yes.
lost support where jaw-droppingly concerned that I lost that support.
Mhm.
So it was definitely shades of all sorts of gray that I wasn't ready for.
Well, and also too, that I always say that this journey is an experience of holding so many emotions at once. All the hard stuff, which you alluded to, but all the great stuff too, like falling in love sometimes in a different way for the first time, because we can have loved our ex-husbands but then falling in love with the correct gender for your sexual orientation can be just an amazing experience. It like all of a sudden your world comes into color. And so many times, like a lot of us have gone through life in a performative way. And so everything, all the markers that we were supposed to hit, that were supposed to bring us like incredibly joy and excitement, sometimes really didn't.
I love that you use the word performative, because I remember when I came out, somebody from high school said, "Well, I just don't understand how you're just gay." I said, "Well, I never was straight."
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all been a performance. I am an amazing actress. Award-winning, I guess. But there's always that performance you put on, and I think that's where Living Out Loud came from, is we're always performing. If you're
Mhm,
straight, gay, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're performing for someone. I
mhm,
remember my daughter, the first time she heard me on a corporate conference call, she said, "Your voice changes and you're different." And yes, because it's a performance that we're putting on to sound smarter or more educated or more advanced in that topic that I'm speaking about. And I don't have to have that filter on when I'm
mhm,
in front of just normal people around me. And that's what it was being straight. To me, it was, I was always knowing something was different, something was off. Just didn't feel right. But putting on that facade of mom says, I need a man, a white
mhm.
picket fence, a kid, a lawn, a job, right? And it was just like lining up everything that normal is. And it just felt so fake, deep down, right?
I describe it as a restlessness. It's
Mm,
like, wait a minute, I'm checking all the boxes. I'm enormously successful in terms of the boxes. I've got
yeah.
the boxes checked.
I call it puzzle pieces. I was trying to
Yeah,
put a puzzle together and I had the wrong pieces or I
it,
didn't have the right pieces.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So your memoir is in short, very bite-sized chapters. Why did you
Yes.
choose it that way?
So it is short and it's for a reason. I want it to be the start of a discussion. And not
Mhm,
with me per se, with yourself. I
mhm,
want every chapter for you to be able to sit and just sit with what you just read, and
mhm,
then maybe apply it to yourself. Some of the chapters I even end with a question
mhm,
or a thought-provoking
mhm,
statement, because I want people to just take it a minute, right? It doesn't matter where you came from, how long you've been straight, just to have that discussion. How are you
mhm,
feeling? Where is that? And then to be able to open up and just, my line is, be bold, be brave, be beautiful, inside and
mhm,
out. And that's it. I want you to be bold within yourself, have that conversation with yourself, and then be brave, tell the world, no matter what, you're
mhm,
beautiful, right? And that's the main purpose of the book, was I need to get this out because, one, a lot of the story is you can't make this shit up, was the sort of context of it. And it's sort of like you got to get that down on paper. And a lot of it is, I want people to know that no matter what you're faced with and what the struggle seems to be, what kind of illness, chronic, are you an amputee? Any of these things, they're not limiting.
mhm,
You're limiting yourself in the way you think. So
mhm.
how do we open that up? How do we broaden our thought process? And how do we know that we should always be evolving and changing, because the world around us is always evolving and changing?
Absolutely. So you write about the moment in the book that the truth clicked, and a lot of us have those moments. What did that feel like for you in your body, and just not your mind?
My body was happy.
Yeah.
I think I was very elated. It was like a relief that this is it and this is why I am the way I am. Like, it all just came together. Yeah.
Mhm.
It
Mm,
was, yeah, I had, and I got to say, my mind and body mix, because I was definitely not confused anymore, but terrified. So I was happy and terrified of what the next step was, because am I ready to take on what I know that I now need to take on? Because I'm
mm,
the kind of person, when I learn the truth, we're
mhm,
going all we'll hog into it. Like, I can't
mhm,
not do that or be that.
mhm,
And when I finally realized, and it was definitely a matter of steps of brushing it off. I remember, and think I mentioned in the book, when I met my um, ex-husband in college, I said, "You're not my type." And I laugh now because I was literally saying, "You're not my type." And it wasn't that I had a type in men. It was, "You're not my type, period. Full stop." And now thinking back to everything, right? It's like, if I knew then what I know now, the whole book is like that. And that's my life. So it definitely was just, I am undoing somebody else's life that thinks he has it freaking made. Like, I am his everything. I light up his world. Together we are unstoppable. We are a power couple, and it's awesome. Um, and I'm about to undo that. So that's where the fear came in, and not that he was going to harm me in any way, that I was letting people down.
mhm.
And I still go to therapy today to talk about that,
It's
because
so interesting because I hear that constantly, Sarah, and I never felt that way about letting people down.
yeah.
I am so curious why I was like, That was not one. I mean, I was maybe the words I used were different. Like, to me, when I finally said it out loud, it felt like such a relief that I told way too many people. Like, if I could go back and do a redo, I'd do a redo. You know what I mean? No, I actually wouldn't, because I never want to go back to that time, because it was really hard. But, hear a lot of people talk about that, about so terrified of hurting the people they care about. And I just didn't feel that way. And I'm always really, really curious about it. I probably should do some journaling about that. And maybe it does have another word for it. Or maybe it's because I've been doing this for so long now that it's like I realize people have to grapple with their own emotions, and I don't have the responsibility of their emotions.
Not responsible for how you feel. I
I
don't
am
even
not.
have to be sorry for how you feel. And that's an awakening moment for me, is to be
Mhm,
like, you have all of the right to feel the way you feel, but
mhm,
that's not my fault.
mhm, mhm,
And I just, how you respond to me, my words, my news, my whatever means nothing in terms
mhm.
of like, and that was a really big swallowing point for me. Like, okay, that helps me stand up a little taller
Correct. Yeah,
when
yeah.
I realized that.
But when you told your husband, he was pretty good about everything. And what helped the two of you navigate the transition with care?
I will say there is possibly no other human on earth like him.
Mhm,
Getting into it sort of knew I was missing, and how I call them puzzle pieces. We were missing pieces of each other. I actually filled some of his, he filled some of mine, but there was a big one that was just, it was missing. He couldn't fill that void. And we'd been working together for a while on, okay, so I wanted a baby. We got a baby, right? Went ahead and did that. And then it was sort of like that still wasn't it. And I wanted to be fit, and I wanted to be the best version of myself. So I lost a ton of weight, and he helped me watch the baby while I got up in the morning and I went out and I did Spartan races, all these medals behind me. And I just was like, lost 120 pounds, I think, at my max weight loss. And I just felt like a brand new person. And then people were looking at me that I didn't anticipate would be looking at me. And I was noticing people looking like myself that I didn't anticipate that I would show interest in. And it wasn't of the male
mhm,
genre. And I was like, And the first person I discussed it with was him.
mhm.
So, tendencies. How girls go to the bathroom together? And it was sort of the lighter sort of, and he's always had a very open mind of girls are on a spectrum
Mhm,
in terms of their gayness.
mhm.
And he's always understood that, why are you jealous of each other if you're not liking of each other? Why are you having to hang out in such packs and groups and need support if you don't
I have
love
an answer
those
for that.
people? And I was like, what? Right? And I'm like, okay, so he's got this idea already in his mind. I actually came out at work first,
Mhm,
not out and proud and glowing, but I had joined our company's employee resource group for Pride as an ally. And I brought my daughter to the Boston Pride Parade with me, and so sort of was trying to gobble it up and learn as much as I possibly could about LGBTQIA plus and the people and what made them up and what made them do what they do. And I was like, it was sort of like a psych project for me. And I didn't know why. And then when I'd lost all the weight and it was all the pieces were coming together, I decided to sort of, some trusted colleagues, sort of, hey, hi, got these feelings. What do you think? Reaching out to others that are far away but close enough through online, at work. And I sort of found interest in one. And I
mhm,
was like, she's long distance. So this is safe. I don't know. Tell my husband about it. I want to go meet her.
mhm,
Sow some oats.
mhm,
And I was basically asking my husband for permission to cheat on him.
mhm.
And who is he to stop me? Is his answer, right? Like, I don't want you if you're not mine, right? I don't want you if you're not in it 100%. I need you to know this so we can know this and we can go forward with however that looks on the other side.
So I don't name that as cheating, Sarah.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I mean, like,
However, that's
more
exploratory research, if anything.
it's more of like it's like an awakening, and
Yes.
it's almost like an awakening to a part of yourself that is unexplored, and it's more about figuring out who you are and what you want, which ultimately is best for any marriage.
Right.
Uh, who
Well,
you
and
are,
that's where I
what
Yes.
Yeah.
In the book, I keep saying, talk to your significant other. Communication is the number one thing that leads to success. You can't lock it up. You can't have resentment. You have to every night tell what's on your mind and be honest about it.
Well, yes, except some significant others are not safe. And
Correct.
so you have to really discern, because some spouses, yes, you can talk about it, and sometimes they don't want to talk about. And so
The
learning
balance.
how,
Yeah.
that balance of, is it too much? I really recommend that. Although we can communicate with our spouse can't be our emotional caregiver as we go through this
Correct.
process. That's not their job, and they
No.
can't be, because they're straight.
Right. Well, and that was a big thing for us too, is I had to find other people to be my emotional support animal
Mhm.
or person or whatnot. And he wanted me to just come home to him. And I was like,
Mhm.
I don't want to burden you with what my thoughts are. I need them to be clear in my head when I talk to you. I
Mhm.
can't be questioning it because I'm always knowing that you're going to be pulling me in the other direction. So
Mhm.
I need to be clear in what my understanding is of my queerness before discussing it with you. And I have to be set in my way, because it's not going to be a It's a, this is it.
Mhm.
So I do remember coming home from that trip and being the plane ride home. I was very excited.
Mhm.
Hell of an experience. Yep. Should have done that earlier. Like, that was no regrets on my life choices leading up to that, but holy cow, had I known then what I knew then, right? Like,
Right, I understand.
and I was terrified to go home because I was excited, and I knew it wasn't good news for him that I was excited, because it means that I tried it and I liked it and I'm not coming back, right? This isn't
Mhm.
turning around.
Mhm.
And we had our not so pleasant moments. But again, he deserved, right? I feel like it was a hard chunk for him to swallow and take on, and he did it with such poise.
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing that he ever did for me was when my mom tried to have an intervention and
Mhm.
come to our house, and they're driving from a distance. And it was the first thing I did is pick up the phone and call him at work and said,
Mhm.
they're on their way. And he
Mhm.
said, when today? And he dropped everything and
So,
came.
who came? I'm so curious, who came?
My mom and dad. My mother did not take the news very well, so I came out to my husband first.
Mhm.
Um, and then we were waiting. We were holding on it. It was holidays.
Yeah,
It was
that's pretty normal.
it's never a good time to tell
Right.
anybody, right? So,
Never a good
and it was
time to deliver a
prior to the holidays. It was sort of like, well, we want to make sure we're sure and we're set in our ways and that we're dealing with it properly on our own before we freaking share it to the world. But my problem is I call my mom every day on the way home from work. I had an over hour commute back then, 10 years ago. And I would call her on my way home every day. And she would retell me stories and we would just connect. And I love talking to my mom. And it was something that in the book I relate to. I didn't know her at all then. I didn't realize. And I was on the phone with her and I'd lost the weight and I was doing Spartan races and everything. She was giving me advice on having weird feelings. I wanted to sort of, I'm dancing on a line here with her. And she said, you chose him and you will stay with him no matter what the other man looks like or how attractive you get. And I said, what if it's not a man? That was the question. And
Mhm.
then all I heard was wind and the phone hit the sink
Mhm.
and my mom screaming, you're not gay. And my dad picked up the phone and he said, and they're 10 years difference. My dad is 10 years older than my mother. And he picks up the phone and he says, have I ever told you about your great Aunt Margaret? What? Like, I don't know what he's seeing on his side of the phone, but it's not a good thing I can hear. And he just wanted me to know that I had a great Aunt Margaret and she possibly was gay. And nobody sort of knew it, but they knew it. And she didn't really come out, but it was part of the family. It's okay. It's sort of, I think, what he was trying to tell me, but I have to go take care of your mom. And he hung up. And all the way home, I'm like, shoot. And I call my husband and I said, I just told my mom. He goes, why would you do that? I didn't mean to. It just came out my mouth as a question. And
Mhm.
she jumped right in and knew what I was talking about. And he was like, well, come home. We'll discuss it. So that was how I told my parents. That was it. There was
Mhm.
no other discussion about it, but my mom hated every minute of it. I made her look bad. And what are people going to think?
It was all about her. She made your queerness about her,
Yeah. And that's
and
where it's
it's
sort
not
of
about
like,
her.
no, in no way does this make you look bad. I was like, if your kid's a murderer, do you take that on yourself that you raised him badly? I was like, there's just such, I went extreme with her, but I'm just like, I don't understand. how you couldn't love me. Like, she was here and took care of me when I was on bed rest with my daughter, who was a preemie, and I had such a horrible time carrying her to not term. She came early. But my mom was here every second of that. She left her home life to come here. And it sort of all just came flooding back that she did it for herself, to make herself look good. I'm taking care of my daughter. I can't right now, and just making herself look good. And it hurt so bad in my soul to learn that this was my mom.
Mhm.
And she didn't have, and in the book I reference unconditional love. I feel that if you have unconditional love for someone or something, you will not turn your back on it.
You love each other, but lately it feels like you're speaking different emotional languages. Strengthening Love is a powerful relationship course created just for lesbian couples. You'll learn how to break painful patterns, communicate with compassion, and feel truly seen again together. Created by LGBTQ+ experts, it's affirming, practical, and designed for real-life connection. It's a one-time payment, lifetime access, and real change. Visit healthylesbianrelationships.com to enroll today. Because your love deserves more than just getting by. It deserves to grow.
But my mom kept telling my dad, because he's not on social media, and I'm very much on social media. I live my life on social media. There's blips of it. Obviously, some stuff doesn't get shown on there. But obviously, I was sort of introducing somebody else and
Mm.
sharing of something else. And my mom did not like that. And she was telling my dad that I was saying all these quotes, and it was all about fitness, but she took it to mean something different and put everybody else down and put yourself first. And it doesn't matter what their feelings are. It's you, or nobody. And I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. Right. I'm saying change yourself in terms of your fitness level. And look what I did. You can too. I want to bring you along on my journey for fitness. And you do have to sometimes put yourself first. But is that you getting up at 4:30 in the morning while your kids are still sleeping to get a workout in? We might have to make choices. But she turned it all into this whole thing about I hate people and I'm first and it doesn't matter what they think. And obviously narcissistically turning into I was talking directly to her and I do not care about her or her feelings and I'm just going to do this no matter what, which wasn't wrong. But it's not what I was saying in those posts. But she told my dad about it and he called me one morning, very unlike my father, and told me things and said things that I will not repeat. It's very hurtful. And he's never talked to me like that before. And then he called and said, your mother and I are coming. So I called Josh, my husband or ex-husband. His name's in the book. I say it right out loud. And he came home and our daughter was in daycare and he was like, okay, this is the plan, right? We map out a plan because they have hours to drive to get here. And they got there and we said, hey, we will put you up in a hotel, but you are not going to be here when our daughter leaves. We know you had a long drive, but when our daughter comes home, you will not be here. She will not see this. She doesn't have to experience this part. And I don't care if you're her grandparents, you're not getting to see her in this mindset that you're in. And they're like, no, we're just going to drive home today and back. And we sat around the table, not in the living room, very upright. And he was phenomenal, meaning my husband. And he said, first off, directed at my father, Sarah is respected in this house. She is loved in this house, and she will not be spoken to the way that she was spoken to this morning on the phone.
Mhm.
And I've never seen my dad, farmer, all in all, strong man, back up in his words so fast. I don't think he knew that I had somebody that was standing up for me. And I couldn't have felt more proud of the man I picked
Mhm.
and that he stood up for me. And words were spoken. He sort of explained what unconditional love was, and that's not what he's seeing that they have for me. And that when he asked for my hand in marriage, it was till death do us part, not gay till we part, right? He's there for the long haul. No matter what my choice is, he will be supporting me and lifting me the entire time. And my mom just kept saying, it's not how I was raised. And by the end of it, my dad turned to her and said, it looks like we have some more growing to do.
Oh, wow.
And I knew then that my dad, he didn't have to get it or like it or understand it to love me. And that's what he was doing.
Well, he loved you in the moment when your mother dropped the phone and started screaming because
Absolutely.
he
And he's
didn't know what to do.
correct.
I'm gonna did what a lot of straight people do is they tell you about the one gay person they
Right.
know.
Right. It is just, I fell in love with my dad all over again during my coming out because I never knew. Like, one, we are from a very small town that everything is clicky and sounds racist and just the bigotry. And you're like, and just sort of P's and Q's. And it's sort of like, that's the style that they speak in. Like, it's very hickish. It's not. And I was like, I excused it all my entire life. But my cousin is gay, and he didn't come out till my grandfather passed away because he knew he was a racist and a bigot. And no, not until grandpa's gone. Until the senior is gone, I will not. And the second he came out before me, he's younger than me, but he came out before me, happily married to his husband. It's fabulous. But it's like, how many of us can there be in a family? Is the response from everybody else when I came out. And I was like, oh, it could be you. You should talk to yourself. What are you feeling? And we
There
started.
is, there is that, I have a lot of clients where they have a brother or sister that's queer.
Yeah,
And
we joke about it.
a lot of times people are like, well, there can only be one gay person in our family. And that's like, being queer is genetic. There
Yeah,
are,
right.
yeah, so there can be more than, like, I have seen families that have 3 or 4 gay kids in it.
Yep.
And so, like, if you are somebody who's listening right now and you're like, well, my sister's gay or my brother's gay, I can't be gay. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can.
But it was it sort of ended. It wasn't a long conversation. It was my mom relieved herself and said, I'll see you in the car. And I said, well, let's just remember that you don't get to see our child until you're right in your head and you're right with this and you can treat me. And she goes, well, it seems like I'm going to have to go away for a bit. And I said, that's
Fine.
that's your choice.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I am always here. And my dad hung back and he hugged my husband and he stood back and I could tell he was fighting tears. And he said, I don't know if it's the state that we're in, like meaning New Hampshire, your family, but thank you for being the man I could not be. And
Mhm.
sort of confessed that he's not a guy who could have supported his wife through that. Right. And he's like, so I'm going to go see about her and take care of her, but you take care of my daughter and my grandchild. And he said, absolutely, sir. Right. And they left. And my mom unfriended me on Facebook and started really text messaging me some horrible texts that I decided to block her on my
Which is
cell phone.
probably best. Yeah.
And I emailed some screenshots to my dad. And I said, if mom's wondering why she can't get through to me, it's because she's speaking to me like this. And I don't need that. I'm working on myself. I'm working on what I have going on here. And I don't need her adding to it. But she went home and I mean, she was asking friends. She's in a quilters guild. She's in quilting. And these people are senior her. And like, oh my God, your daughter's gay? Does she have a girlfriend? My niece has a girlfriend and she's so cute. And like, it was not the response my mom was looking for. She was looking for, oh my God, really? How can we support you? This is horrible. And instead, everybody had a queer in their family and they loved them. And she was like, wait. Right? But we went probably 18 months, 2 years of not chatting. And
How is your relationship different with her now, Sarah?
well, one winter day, I got a phone call at 5 a.m. from my father saying, you need to come see about your mom.
Mhm.
And I said, what? And at that time, my ex-husband and I were separated. We're living in the same house for our daughter, but we were separate bedrooms. We had separate plans, separate finances. We did everything except the divorce at that time. And I went into his room and I said, hey, you got Morgan today. Call your mom, see if she can take her. I was going to take her skiing, but obviously your mom won't take her skiing. But I got to go see about a mom. And I remember taking keys, a water bottle in my car. Like, that's it. And I drove all the way and I parked real close to the house so nobody knew I was in town. And I went in, I said, what say you? X, I am just so out of touch with this because I've got a really thing that I'm trying to do in New Hampshire for me. And you guys really suck. And my brothers, on the other hand, they loved it. They accepted it and made sure I was in a safe place because, again, they're not the kind of man that could take their wife turning to another woman over them.
Mhm.
Way they were raised, they have some growing up to do. But I walked in the house and my mom hugged me, like she hugged and like her head is in my neck and she's just sobbing and she says, I miss you. I said, I didn't go anywhere. I am right here. Same freaking person that was the day before I was gay is the same person I am today. Just saying out loud I'm gay. That is it. Nothing has changed. I am the same daughter. And we sat down in the living room and we crossed some T's, dotted some I's. When did you know? Right. I'm like 15, right? Like I knew a lot of things, but was terrified to one, let you down. My mom was my best friend growing up. It's all
Well,
I had.
so too, Sarah, you also knew that she wasn't a safe person to tell.
Correct. Absolutely.
If that had happened when you were 15 and not at 30,
Right. I would have
would
crumbled.
have caused irreparable damage to your self-esteem
Right.
for your entire life.
Well, and that's why when I say coming out later in life gave me the opportunity to grow up first. gave me the
Oh, I
opportunity
love
to
that.
have the strength to be able to handle what others were going to be pushing at me and live out loud, right? It doesn't matter. You now are old enough, big enough, and your own person enough, and you make money and you get your own stuff. You don't need anybody. If they want to walk away, it's okay. When you're younger, that's a big risk because I'm out on the street or I am fundamentally losing my mind, right?
Mhm.
In terms of that. So like I said, I don't regret any part of my past and how I got to where I am today because it all had to happen in that way for me to be the best version of myself. And we have to grow and have those growing pains to be able to get there.
So the book also talks about your story of being diagnosed with MS. So would
Yeah.
you like to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was 4 years queer. Life had just started sailing again in the right direction, and I felt really good about where I was. I was hiking mountains, doing Spartan races, best shape of my life, and I went to traveling all over the country, the world. I was in the UK, go to California, Texas is where my company is based. And in August of 2019, I was in Texas and it was super hot. And I remember I was sweating from behind, like my neck. It's like there's nothing back there to sweat from. Why am I
Mhm.
sweating? And behind my knees, and I was like, "It's so hot." And I remember putting on Facebook, "It's too hot for Sarah Locke here."
Mhm.
And it was a week-long thing. I came home on a Friday. I woke up that Saturday and, was on the couch, and I was on the couch, and I went to get up, and I fell to the floor, and my husband was sitting there next to me, separated, same house, and he goes, "A little too early to be drinking, isn't it?" And
Mhm.
I said, "I can't feel my legs." And he said, "What?" And I said, I have like this sensation of like a belting, a squeezing around my waist, my chest, and I can't feel my legs. They're numb. And I stood up and you got muscle memory. So I was walking around and I'm like, I wonder if I did a blood clot on the airplane. I was like, 6 hour flight, healthy, active person that. So I swam, did yoga for about a week. It kept getting worse, tighter and tighter. I went to my primary care physician. She's very versed with me. I've lost weight. I've done this. I've got this. And she does 15-minute exam and says, "Sarah, it's Lyme, lupus, or MS. I don't want any of those." And she goes, "Well, I really probably think it's Lyme because you hike all the time." I said, "I'm a tick fanatic. There are nude tick checks that go on this body. It is not Lyme. Like ticks are gross." Lupus ran in my family, but on my unmarried side, like through marriage. So I was like, probably not that. So she sent out for blood work, a full panel for Lyme, and MRIs. And I wasn't home for my first thoracic MRI, which is here. And she calls me, and I'm getting out of the car. And she says, "Sarah, you have demyelinization at your teeth."
And you said what?
Yeah, I said, So? And she goes, "Unfortunately, you have multiple sclerosis." And she said, "Your T2 is in between your chest plate. So that's chest down. And
Mhm.
you have some sort of demyelinization there where your cell phone wire isn't completing the connection point and you have to wiggle it just right to get it back. But here's the number to conquer neurology and have fun." So I have lost, and I went into this whole spiral of I lost over 120 pounds to be the best version of myself, to be whatever my daughter wanted me to be because she was a high risk pregnancy and I was blessed with her and she's happy and healthy now. She's 4 years old. And who am I to do this? Right? Why? And I remember discussing it with my uh, ex-husband, my separated husband. And I was like, "This isn't, no, I can't." So I called Concord Neurology and they said, "We'll see you October 19th-ish. It is August.
Mhm.
No. And it's getting worse by the day. And I'm like, "Well, could I get on a waiting list?" And they're just like, "Sure." And in the meantime, I found out who the best neurologist was in the state. And I called her office every day,
Mhm.
every morning at 8 a.m.
Really? To see if someone had canceled?
I would call and be like, "Hi, my name is Sarah Locke. I have multiple sclerosis. You have my file. I would love for Dr. Ann Cabot to look at it." And
Mhm.
they would say, "Thank you so much. Yes, we got the message." And the next day I would call and I'd say, "Hi, it's Sarah Locke. You have my file. I know I'm a success story. I just need the right person to help me. Can you give it to Dr. Ann Cabot?" And they said, "Yes, she has it." And a Thursday afternoon, sitting at my desk, the phone rings and it's not a secretary. It's not a desk person. It's not an office person. It's not a scheduler. It's Dr. Ann Cabot
Mhm.
saying, "I've heard you wanted to talk to me." And I broke down.
Mm.
One, if you told me I was going to be an advocate for anything, I would have been like, no, for what, you know? And I actually became a self-advocate for myself because nobody was listening and I knew I could get my legs back. I just need to figure out what this MS is and how to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So she called me, I went in and, amazing woman. And she cares about the person, not the patient. And somebody of the LGBTQIA plus community knows that we are not treated equally in the healthcare world. And she could have cared less that
Mm-hmm.
I was of anything different than a person who
Mm-hmm.
had a problem that she knew how to fix.
Mm-hmm.
And from that first meeting of her on, I can't say enough about her loving the person first, caring about the person first, not the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge. She'll call you at home on a Sunday afternoon if she saw on the patient portal that you said that you had a headache of some sort that you weren't used to or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when I told my mom that I'm now talking to, we're
Mm-hmm.
getting along, but I also don't have the girlfriend I originally had. I am back with Josh for the sake of I am not dating anyone and we're still living together. So on the outside, my daughter can still be straight. So we're talking and it's okay. It's a burden. Like I'm trying. I'm half there. But I told her that I was diagnosed with MS and she crumbles to the ground and oh my gosh, did I do this? Yep, it was you. No, no. She just losing herself, right? And I said, Mom, this doesn't mean I'm going to be in a wheelchair. Mom, it doesn't mean like, and I'm trying to negate all of the premise of you have MS, you're going to be in a wheelchair and dead in 10 years, right? And I said, it's not like that anymore. I've got answers. I've got drugs. I'm doing stuff. I'm moving forward. But, there was at one point, and I don't know if I mentioned it in the book, but when I was diagnosed with MS, there was the subtle under the breath, it's because you're gay and God's punishing you.
From your mom?
And she didn't mean for me to hear it. I don't think she even remembers saying it, but it was two dots that she put together and felt that should come out of her mouth. And I talk about it. I might meet the author, events because I just know, right? We are all bold, beautiful, and brave. And
Well, I would say, okay, hear me out. I
Yeah.
would say the stress of all of that didn't help.
Yeah, no, not at all. Oh my gosh, right? And it's sort of like what caused your MS, right?
Well,
What triggers that?
Well, the stress of what you went through with the people you care about the most, stress exacerbates MS.
Mhm.
So, yeah, mom.
Right.
Yeah, mom, it sort of is your fault because if
Right.
you were kind and loving and nice, maybe I wouldn't have had a flare up until 20 years from now.
Right. And it was just, perfect storm of just everything just falling. And I remember I was eating lunch with somebody. I was on my second MRI and we had to go out and take a break. We're eating lunch and I was in my head of why me? And she turned to me and she said, why not you? I think that you got MS because you're the kind of person that's going to climb to the top of a mountain and you're going to scream and you're going to find a cure and you're going to build awareness and people aren't going to be able to shut up about multiple sclerosis because
Mhm.
Sarah Locke got it. And she's like, you're the kind of person with the energy and the drive. Even if it's going to cause you to have fatigue, you still have normal energy now. And you're going to make something of this. And then I had no idea. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Right. I am a strong person. I always say I was born with farmer broad shoulders to carry the weight of the world. And I stopped putting weight on me, right? I have the shoulders for it, but I don't want anymore. And when is this going to stop, right? When is it going to give? And now to know that, yeah, I'm queer for the rest of my life, but I have an incurable disease
Mhm.
and it's only going to get worse. We might be able to stabilize it until I get stressed again, right? And this is 3 months before COVID, I get diagnosed with MS. When I decide to go on a disease modifying treatment that's going to stop my body from attacking itself, that also means it shuts down my immune system. Welcome COVID.
Mhm.
And don't get sick. So, even the common cold keeps me down for a month
Mhm.
because I just don't have an immune system to fight it.
Mhm.
And it's that inanimate stress. I had to start going to therapy more and more because I was just like, I don't want to leave my house. I can't get sick. I can't, right? And it turned into this whole like afraid of germs. And I was like, I'm not though, and so I really had to try hard, and I have a ton of breathing exercises and mindfulness things that I do just to keep myself level-headed sometimes because I get frustrated. And when I get frustrated, that adds to whatever's helping. It exacerbates whatever's happening to me. And it's, yeah, you can't. And I was just like, what more am I going to have added to my plate?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was no support. It is not an underserved illness in New Hampshire. It is an unserved illness. The only one I had was Dr. Cabot, and she's one person trying to hold us all up. So I partnered with the National MS Society thinking they'd help. Well, they don't have the niche markets that they're national. And their focus is research. And I was like, I want to help the people right here. And I started to climb the peak for MS. And it's out of telling my story that I had MS. I actually did a post and I put it on social media attached to the National MS Society's fundraising page. And I said, I want to tell you a story and I want you to come along with me. And I want to raise $10,000 by the time I get to the top of Mount Washington, which is the highest peak in the Northeast. And it was on my bucket list to do. And I didn't ever think I was actually going to do it. But this sort of just put some fire under me. And during COVID, we all quarantined. We stayed at a condo up there and we took off to do the mountain hike. It took 12 hours up and down. Worst hike of my life. I had not trained. I had MS. I just got my legs back from steroid infusions. And I was like, I got to do this. And I took, a nurse friend with me and a hiking buddy with me that could out hike anybody and somebody for humor. I was like, cause my humor's going to die quick. I can't carry the whole lot of us. And, when I got back from back to the bottom, I'd raised $10,000 for the National MS Society. And that very second I said, how do I make it bigger? How do I get it all for research, right? I want research money. So I started Climb the Peak for New Hampshire, Climb the Peak for MS. It's at a local mountain here that I used to climb, pull tires on a strap to train, hike, ski, snowshoe, climb. I mean, I did everything there. It's my happy place. And they know it. Their marketing team loves me. And I said, I want to do this with some friends. And the first year it was 28 people showed up and it was $16,000 raised. And I said, that's more than 10. And the second year I had 78 people show up in the pouring rain and we raised $32,000. And I said, wow, that's more than 10.
Yeah.
And we're adding it up, right? And then this year was our third year. 116 people showed up with $41,000 to date being raised. I'm like, that's just under $100,000 we have raised for the National MS Society. And then the National MS Society reached out to me and said, so, hey, hi, you can't use our W-9 like you've been using. Like it's ours and you're using it to get sponsors and to start building your event. And our lawyers are saying we can't do it that way. And I said, well, how the hell am I supposed to do this? Like, I need the sponsor money to pay for the cool t-shirts and the event and whatever. And their lawyers said, we could do nonprofit to nonprofit funding.
Mm-hmm.
I said, did you just tell me to become my own nonprofit?
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems like a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, but I'm game. And I started that process the end of last year. And February of this year, the IRS sent me a letter that says, you now are Locke's Promise Incorporated and you have an EIN number and congratulations, you're a nonprofit. And now we have a relationship with the National MS Society that we're redlining. All of our money will always go to research. And the Climb the Peak will always go to research. But we have other events that the money stays right here in New Hampshire. And even in I think we're only 9 months old, we have given away so many donor monies to pay for deductibles and tools and pieces. Right now I'm working on a stand-up walker for somebody. And it's just so great to hear somebody's story and be able to help them. And it's exhausting to have a nonprofit, but it's amazing to be able to actually be able to help. Because I felt like for so long that I was just living, doing steps forward. And with multiple sclerosis, every step literally is a blessing. And I want everybody to feel like they belong. And even with MS, it's you feel alone, you're depressed. And our tagline is never MS alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody doesn't want to tell you. We look amazing. I look amazing. Like, I don't have MS. I don't have something that makes me shake and I can't walk on certain days. Like, nobody knows that side of it. So everybody with MS, basically, if you don't have a visible ailment with your MS, you fake it till you make it. And nobody knows, right? But you're exhausted and you are the best performance artist ever coming back to acting like you are somebody you're not. And that's where the book sort of answers a lot of, okay, so when I was diagnosed with MS, I had to give up alcohol. Sobriety was a big thing for me. Like I turned the other way when I came out and I had a lot of stress and I would love my wine Wednesdays, whiskey Wednesdays. Like I just went to drinking high powered IPAs, 6 a night. And you start thinking again, like that chapter of sobriety, sit down and think, where are you? I sat at the base of a ski slope once for my daughter wanting to go home, and I was too drunk to drive. And we hung out at the bottom of a ski by the parking lot. And I said, that is my moment at the end of the chapter where I sat and thought, this has gone too far. And my sobriety came. And it was all or nothing. I'm not a sipper. So I gave it up. And it's been 4 years now that I'm sober and I wouldn't go back for an instant. And I do strength training, 10 push-ups every morning. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see that I do every morning before 8 a.m., 10 push-ups are shared with some sort of wonderful thing of who I am, how I am, what I'm doing, or some thought that I have. I don't care if you keep scrolling. I'm doing it for my accountability. That one, I can still do 10 push-ups.
Push-ups, right?
And 2, right, a girl with push-ups, that's a thing. That's a feat. In the book, I talk about pull-ups, and I got to tell you, the turnout of that is I cannot do a pull-up for the life of me. So, if you read the book, I had a goal and I never hit it. Upper body strength is not my feat, but Locke's promise has given me that path forward to not only have MS, tell my story, tell it well, tell it often, but have others share their story and share it well and share it often. And it's when I talk to you, I want to talk to you again. I want to hear where your progression is, how well you're doing, how you're feeling. We have a private Facebook page that I'm like, hey, feels Friday. What are your feelings today? And let's be honest. And I'll start with mine. Because I believe that if I don't share, nobody else is going to share either. And I want you to know, like, this is how I'm feeling today. And it sucked. Or this is how I'm feeling. And I had a really good day today. And I've got this new band that I wear that it's not, they didn't even put a watch on it. It is just a Velcro strap. It's not sexy, but it tells me exactly what my body's doing and to calm the hell down when I'm going too far. And I love it because I woke up this morning and it gave me a 1 out of 5 and said, calm down. I'm like, already? Like, I just woke up. But this thing is telling me how to pace myself because that's not something I know how to do. But I was like, you could put a watch on it or something. You could make it functional in other ways. But I'm telling people what I'm trying and what I'm doing and what might help them. But we're all snowflakes. We all have MS in a different way. Some people lose their eyesight when they get stressed. That is, hearing those stories is just like, one, every day is a blessing, no matter where you are in your journey. Wake up and take that breath and be grateful because there's some people out there that are just so much more worse off. Some of them are still living that lie, married and pretending. Some of them are still, right, pretending they don't have MS or, saying they're fine when they're not fine at all. Jelly Roll's song that says, I'm not okay. That is the best song for anybody struggling to say it's okay to say it's not okay or I'm not okay. Right. I always say when I say I'm fine, I'm not fine. Like fine is not it. The definition of fine for me is not fine. It is, it's not. So yeah.
So, Sarah, first of all, I want to thank you for sharing your story with us. And I have a couple questions I always ask people at the end of the show. So, I was wondering, did you have a coming out song?
I did. Roar by Katy Perry.
That's a great song.
I
Yeah.
remember sitting in airports and somebody sent it to me and said, this is what I think of when I think of you right now. And yep, I listened to it this morning in the shower. Just because sometimes you just need that little push to get going. And I love that song.
A book or a movie that's really changed your perspective?
It's 10 Things I Hate About You.
Spoken like a true millennial.
Really watch it and then really watch it again. I love that movie and Heath Ledger. There's so many things that it says that it doesn't say. Yeah.
How would you describe your life now? We didn't even get into it, but you are partnered with somebody else. You have a blended family now. How would you describe your life now?
Successful struggle. I believe there's always going to be a struggle, and it doesn't have to be a hard struggle, but it's always worth working for.
Mhm.
And that's what I see a struggle as, is it's worth working for, or
Mm.
you got to work through it. So is it worth it? So the blended family part is really hard. And it's having a very involved dad for my daughter and a partner who wants to be a parent.
Mm.
My kid already has two. So where's that line? And I talk about that in the book. And then I want to be something for everyone, and I cannot scale.
Can I can I give you a piece of advice, Sarah?
Please, Anne-Marie. Yes,
Kids can't have too many people that love them and want
absolutely.
their best interest in their heart. And so there are people that help people that are struggling, like integrating a step parent into a family.
Mhm.
And it's an important role for people to have. So, like, yes, I hear that your child already has two parents, but they also have somebody else that loves one of their parents.
Right.
Professional. Sarah, how can people reach out to you?
So there's a website, lockspromise.com, just like Lockes promise.com. You can definitely see the book on there as well. Learn all about Locke's Promise and what we do, all about MS and what we do. Best way. You can also follow me on social medias. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn most readily. But of course, you can find me on Threads, X, and all the other cool ones that nobody uses anymore. And I do YouTube videos and little snippets of stuff that I put out. So you can follow me on YouTube as well.
All right, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. Good luck with everything and congratulations on your book. It is a very sweet
Absolutely.
book.
Pick
And
it
I
up. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and locally in bookstores here in New Hampshire. So it's a quick read, but it's a great discussion for yourself.
thank you, Sarah.
Thanks so much, Anne-Marie.
You've been listening to Coming Out and Beyond, LGBTQIA plus stories with Anne-Marie Zanzal. New episodes of the Coming Out and Beyond podcast drop every other Friday. You can tune in at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and at annemariezanzal.com. Be sure to hit subscribe when tuning in so you never miss an episode. And for more resources, articles, videos, and a free downloadable guide for coming out later in life, visit annemariezanzal.com.